Hello and welcome to this Facebook Live during World Glaucoma Week. Glaucoma Australia have been having such a fantastic week doing our 7 Sites Challenge and getting our community rallied, and it's all about eye health awareness that drives glaucoma testing. And tonight on this webinar, I am thrilled to introduce you to one of our patients, Shannon Davis, and our Orthoptist Educator Sapna Nand, and we're going to be sharing or having them have a conversation. I'm going to interview Shannon and find out about his journey. It's been a new journey for him and a journey that I know that so many people go through at that first time of being told that they have glaucoma, and then you go, oh my gosh, what does that even mean and what is next? So that's what we're going to explore today. So thank you to those who've taken the time to tune in. I know you've come from all over Australia and also the world because this is live. So thank you for taking the time. I know that you are going to find this so powerful. I really feel expectant that the sharing tonight is going to be really powerful. It's going to allow us to feel the heartbeat really of that moment that is a glaucoma diagnosis, and also the impact that the educator has with obviously Shannon's journey, but also the 20, 30,000 other people that Glaucoma Australia shares with. So welcome to the program, or this little share, Shannon and Sapna. Let's start by me asking you, Shannon, to tell us a little bit about yourself and your diagnosis, what went through your mind at the time of diagnosis, and then how did you process all of this to be able to move forward to where we are today?
Thanks, Annie, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Welcome, everyone. Look, a little bit about myself. I'm 45. I'm from Sydney, based in Sydney, married with children. I have a 4-year-old and a 9-month-old son. So very, very busy in the household, especially at this time of day. I've worked in professional services for over 25 years. But I was diagnosed initially when I was 43. And really, I had no warning signs or symptoms like many who are diagnosed with glaucoma. I pretty much wondered why I was the only person in my family that didn't wear prescription glasses. I was wondering about that, and I was looking around at my friends and my colleagues who were mostly all wearing glasses at my age, and really had that feeling that I should just make sure that I didn't need glasses. So I decided to visit an optometrist. That's when I was confronted with the shock that I had very advanced glaucoma affecting both eyes. I had pressure in the high 40s, and I was told that I had sustained irreversible damage to the optical nerves and very severe visual field loss. And I was referred to an eye surgeon the next day. So this was all a total shock to me. I mean, I was very health conscious. I'd always assumed that I actually had healthy eyes because I didn't need glasses. I knew nothing about glaucoma, which made it even more frightening, to be honest. And I was scared for what the future held. So how did I process it? That's a great question. I'm a very positive person, and I was determined to tackle this head on, like any other challenge. I also am very consultative, so I actually went about getting a second and third opinion early on in my diagnosis journey. Spoke to a few different ophthalmologists and to get their views on the situation, and everyone was pretty much saying the same thing, which in a way validated the diagnosis for me and allowed me to begin processing what I was dealing with. I also did lots of research into the disease, so coming from a place of no knowledge at all to doing lots of reading, and I guess that's where I first started to come into contact with Glaucoma Australia. The Glaucoma Australia website I found to be hugely useful in terms of building my knowledge about the disease, the different treatments, all of the research being done around the world at the moment for, different cures, possible cures and things. And that's where I really started to build my knowledge. So I guess that was kind of also an important step in processing what I was dealing with. I guess the final sort of piece in that puzzle to really be able to move forward were some beautiful conversations that I also had with people from Glaucoma Australia. So I would receive phone calls that weren't scheduled. These were kind of felt a bit impromptu. They were from volunteers. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize they were volunteers at the time, but they were from people who were representing Glaucoma Australia as volunteers. They were orthoptists or training to be ophthalmologists, very qualified. And they would just ring and say, how you doing? How'd you go with your last appointment? What was said? Is there anything you weren't sure of? Do you need any advice in regards to the medication? How are you doing with your eye drops? Is there anything we can help you with? When's your next appointment? And they would always make me feel like they were there for me. They would say, look, if you think of anything else in the meantime, here's how you can get in touch. But we will call you again after your next appointment with your ophthalmologist. And that was the beginning of some really great conversations with a variety of people, including Sapna, who's on the call today, around, my situation, my circumstances, and the treatment journey I was going to be on.
Amazing. So what was that like, Sapna, to suddenly then be able to have Shannon calling, and then he's got 1,000 questions? Is that what you deal with every day? Do you get conversations with, people like Shannon who are straight off the website, they've read everything, and then suddenly they get surprised that they get a call from you, or do you just automatically, reach out and go, no, that's expected. I'm here for you. How does that work?
So I'm actually glad that Shannon finally called our helpline when he did. So a lot of the patients don't realize that from the time they join in, they start receiving calls from us, and there's a lot that goes on behind. So even though I haven't spoken to Shannon before that, I have seen all his notes. I was aware of all the conversations our clinic volunteers had. I was one looking at the notes saying, can you call him back about this and that? So I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Shannon. Thank you for doing that. I want to mention that without our clinical volunteers, we would not be able to keep up with the number of patients we support daily. So standard of service will set up the number of people, they help us do that. So our clinical volunteers are of optics and medical background. They range from first-year uni students to qualified health professionals. And they do take their own time out from their personal and work commitments to follow up on our patients. So those who get referred over to us, and then those who join us via the website like Shannon did. And their commitment to our community allows Glaucoma Australia to support the patients from the moment they learn of diagnosis and long-term the journey. So, I'm glad that you did mention them, because I would like to thank them as well for providing their support to you, because sometimes they aren't sure of how well they did with their calls, but those questions, they do make a huge difference in us learning what you're going through, and then for us to be able to support you further from that.
And I think it's an amazing situation. So thank you to do a shout out to the volunteers, because that's exactly right. When we only had a few patients in the early days of Glaucoma Australia, you could do the personal phone call from one educator. But because we're now servicing 20,000 patients, we now have a beautiful relationship with all of the optometry and orthoptic schools around the country. And so we sometimes have up to 100 volunteers available in their own time, being able to support patients. And in Shannon's case, he speaks English, other times they don't, and we're able to often have about 24 or more languages that people can also get support in. So suddenly you have this relationship developing between the two of you, and Shannon came through a different pathway, that he actually just came to the website and then got sort of caught by Glaucoma Australia there. You cannot escape us. Many other patients get referred through their practitioner, and then that auto generates those conversations. So it shows us that it doesn't actually matter how you approach our support systems, that you will then, that will trigger those important conversations, which I think are just, a lifesaver at that time when you're obviously processing so much. And I thought that was amazing what you shared, Shannon, that you actually went and got 2 and 3, reconfirmations of your diagnosis, and it would be like that, because I think it's incredible that you had no symptoms, you're absolutely in shock. It cannot be true. I don't even need glasses. So if you're listening in, those people listening in and going, oh yeah, like I actually feel more validated, because I've often thought, is this true? How can it be? This is actually very, very common in your response. So tell us now, what was your treatment journey like? You've gone from being diagnosed and then told you need to see an ophthalmologist the next day. What happened then with your treatment, and how did you actually build that trust with your eye care professional or professionals? Because it's obviously a collaborative pathway, isn't it? Suddenly you've got an ophthalmologist, an optometrist, an orthoptist. How did that work?
Yeah, great question, Annie. I actually feel, looking back, I feel like a bit of a black belt in regards to the different treatments. Over that short period from 43 through to now, I initially went on to a range of different eye drops, different combinations of eye drops, up to 4 times a day, 3 different types. And it was all very complicated to deal with. And unfortunately, in my case, that wasn't getting my pressures down to kind of the target range that my eye surgeon was looking to have them in. So we moved from the eye drops. Well, actually, we continued with the eye drops, but we then moved to undertake laser surgery on both eyes. And we actually did that multiple times on both eyes. And again, unfortunately for me, I fell into the bucket of 20% of people that doesn't quite work for. So it was sort of second half of last year that my eye surgeon started talking to me about trabeculectomy surgery for both eyes, which I was extremely fearful of, I must admit. There's a lot of misinformation around on the internet regarding that particular procedure. And so it's, I guess, and there was a fair degree of risk in regards to my surgery because I have very advanced glaucoma. So, I had quite a dilemma, for example, trying to decide which eye to get operated on first. I had to choose my left eye or my right eye being my better eye. And the textbook would say you typically start with not your better eye, so it would have been my left. But actually, through a series of conversations with both my eye surgeon and with Sapna, who's here today, I decided to choose to have my right eye done, which was technically riskier and was definitely more terrifying to put everything on the line in that way. But actually, I felt so much better once I'd gotten through that surgery successfully, having secured, that target range of pressure in the more valuable, sight-saving eye. My left eye is a lot worse than the right. So yeah, that was another example of where it was a combination of discussions with my eye surgeon, but also with Sapna and the other educators that kind of got me comfortable with that pathway. It's interesting about trust with the eye care professionals. I'll just share a brief story. After my trabeculectomy surgery, I had some follow-up treatment, very routine for trabeculectomy to require some follow-up. I was having to get a needling done to one of my eyes after the surgery. And if you Google that, that's very common. That's just basically, it's an in-room procedure that's performed to kind of help with any scar tissue that might be forming over what's been done by the surgeon. And so it sounds terrible to put a needle in your eye. And I would have, 3 or 4 years ago, I would have definitely run 100 miles from anything that sounded anything like that. But last year, when I was receiving a needling treatment, one of several that I had to have from my eye surgeon after the trabeculectomy, he actually finished the needling, which took about a minute and a half, and he began to pack things away. And he said, "Oh, look, the pressure's now about 18," and that was coming down from mid-20s. And I knew that both he and I would like to see those pressures lower than that. So it didn't really feel like he was that happy with the outcome, but he was prepared to finish for that time and give me a break, basically. And I actually said to him, "Are you sure that we're going to leave it at that? Why wouldn't you, do you want to needle it again to see if we can get some more of the scar tissue to go away and to get that pressure down?" And he was shocked, that I had that faith and that trust in him to say, "Let's do it again, and let's do it now." So I honestly can't believe where I got to in terms of that level of relationship and trust. And I think that
Yes.
is a combination of, my relationship with the surgeon, the faith that I placed and the knowledge I had built, but also being helped along the way from the sidelines from people like Sapna to help me build that trust really meant a lot.
Oh, I would be one of those people running away for sure. But I think that demonstrates it, that it is when you're at a time you're going, no, I want that to be as low as possible. I'm even prepared to have more needling in my eye than to have the consequences. You can show how that it demonstrates just that sharing, how desperate you are, how critical, how real that situation or that moment is. I think that's amazing too, when you have those discussions with your surgeon and then you're building that relationship and that trust. And then that's that point, isn't it? You then reaching out to Sapna and having those same conversations. And I'm imagining at that stage, it's kind of like checking for the validation. What do you think about Sapna? Should I do my good eye and risk it, or should I do my bad eye? Those are huge discussions to be having with our educator while you're building that relationship. It's very symbolic of the trust relationship, right?
Yeah. And Annie, I would add as well, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening in that are glaucoma patients would, empathize with this, but often you're only getting 15 or 20 minutes with your eye surgeon, and questions come to mind afterwards, or a comment is made and you analyze that for days afterwards. And it's just really important to be able to bounce that off people. So I'm the sort of person that really enjoys that communication, as Sapna knows. And, I was always thinking of, it would always make me feel better if I thought of something after the appointment, because I'd always say to myself, well, I wonder what Sapna would think of that. And I wonder what her view on that issue would be. And I'd say that to my wife, Bronwyn. I'll just give Sapna a call and we'll talk it through. And we did that a lot through all of those different treatments, and it really did help.
Oh my goodness! Yes, I often get notes. Sorry, I was going to say I get patients sending me messages going, "Sapna's a guardian angel," and it is a bit like that. What was that like, Sapna, when you're suddenly having a call like that with Shannon, talking about which eye to that you would operate on, or actually just backing him to trust the surgeon?
I think in Shannon's case, and a lot of other patients who call us, like, he knew the answers. He just wanted to hear that he was on the right track. And I think a big decision for Shannon was which eye. And actually, the surgeon said right eye. And after our call, I was hinting right eye. Shannon ended the call saying left eye. And then he called me the next day saying, I'm getting the right eye done. It's just about processing. It's just processing the information and being okay with it. And I remember the call before that needling appointment he had. He actually called to say, had the surgery, it went well, but the doctors are saying I need needles done. I need needles my whole life. And I said, but Shannon, you've gone from I might lose my vision to my vision's fine to I need needles. You're fine. And he's like, actually, yeah, I'm fine. So went back for more needles. So I think it was just more of just understanding why you need something done and just knowing that you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's a lot of courage that Shannon as well. But I liked it how he used to call and just let it all out. This is what I'm thinking. And I'd be like, yes, no, and then really up to him at the end. Like, it was a decision, it is his eye. But, he just had to be okay with it.
Yeah. Because ultimately it's the patient's decision, right? Even the doctor is there presenting options, presenting recommendations, but ultimately the patient has to agree with that, and feel comfortable with that and is calm and reassured. And then there's so many other factors which we'll go into. But so for you, Sapna, to be having those conversations day in, day out, and those listening in, this is exactly what our educator and all of her support crew of other educators do. They're having these real life conversations, which are actually just allowing all of you patients to be able to process these things, to be able to talk it through, to be able to understand it. And that point that you made, Shannon, before, that you've had that time with the doctor and you've had all that information, but then you have that afterwards, thinking about it, extra questions, needing validation. And that's the value, I think, of Glaucoma Australia, that when you can then have someone after that appointment to go and, spend that time, the value of the time and the reachability, that constant and repetitive contact point with someone that you can then trust. I think it is so invaluable. So big shout out to Sapna. I know everyone listening online already loves her, but we just think she is gold because, that's right. She's having these conversations with people day in, day out that are just changing their lives, right? If that gives you the confidence to be able to present to an operation, which is very scary, is very all the unknown, everything that you could never be prepared for in life, and then feel actually comfortable to be able to do it, and then to even ask for more if you're as brave enough as Shannon, really is incredible. So, Shannon, you've now had to, in your situation, medically surrender your license. And I know this is a huge situation, topic for people listening in who, one, are scared of that day or have had that day. What did you, how did you come to terms with actually this? You're a young guy, you've got 2 little kids, you've got life happening at this stage, you're actually even still employed corporately. What was going through your mind there, and how did you actually come to that decision?
Yeah, it's a big one to process, this one, and I know a lot of glaucoma patients do like to discuss it as a topic, and I can see the different views on it. Funnily enough, the day that I failed the driver's test, I actually drove to that appointment, which, in a way, now that I look back, kind of shakes me up a little bit to think that I was, putting myself and my loved ones and members of the public at risk. And what was interesting in my situation was I wasn't a slam dunk failure either. I was kind of just below the level where you need to be in order to keep your driver's license or maintain a restricted driver's license. But I very quickly got to a rationale in my mind, which was I would never forgive myself if my inability to react within a required time frame and the way that it was being affected by the fact that I had suffered such a visual field loss and peripheral vision had been damaged so badly that I harmed someone, especially, whether it's someone from my family or someone from the public, I would never forgive myself. So really it became very clear cut for me. I've since, listened into discussions on this topic for people that live in the country in rural areas, for example, or people that need their driver's license for their occupation. And I can definitely understand those views and what that means for those people. But in my situation, living here in Sydney, to be honest, the transition to not driving, for me personally, setting aside the pressure that it might be putting on others, including my wife, who's now the sole driver in our household, the transition's been okay because we've got things like Uber and we've got great benefits for the vision impaired in terms of transport. And so I actually am comfortable with where I've landed on it. It's certainly something that I find a lot of people like to ask me about because it is a fascinating topic for someone, and we all drive and we all get around. And I certainly drove every single day prior to losing my license at such a young age. So I would never have envisaged being in this situation. But when I consider the safety aspects, it's a no-brainer for me.
Incredible. And I agree. If something happened and then you can't see that peripheral, you've got that peripheral vision loss, and that's right, you are driving quite confidently at that time. The fact that you actually do drive to your driving license test and go, oh, like I would never have done that if I thought I was fine. But then when you actually start understanding the disease and what effect it's happening and the risk, absolutely huge. Saying that, it is very hard, and we are very blessed when we do have backup plans like Ubers and taxis and buses and other things, and in other areas it is very challenging. I'm sure you're going to be a very good candidate for the driverless car when that comes in. I think that would be absolutely amazing.
I have said that to some of my friends. I have said, well, I may be back on the roads at some point soon. The way the technology is moving, it could easily happen in my lifetime. So Yeah.
Exactly. And let's hope so. And there's so many things when we're battling these different stages and even treatments and other things that you're dealing now. Who's to say what is going to be possible in 5 years and 10 years, even, with treatment options and potentially regenerating optic nerves and things that you have even acceptance of now. Who's to say what will be in the future? So I feel that, certainly from the position that I am in at Glaucoma Australia and the research that we see and all the pioneering stuff that's happening from these incredible scientists, I think we should never say never. We should actually be very, very hopeful around this area. So you've mentioned your wife, and now she's the sole driver and helping you out a lot. And you've got your kids in the background. Beautiful. I love your gorgeous family. Tell us what it's like to have, in your situation, such great family support. I know your family and your friends have rallied around you, but that's a really big part of your glaucoma journey. So I'd love you to share how they've been for you and how important that has been.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Annie. Always been very blessed to be part of a tight-knit family. My wife, Bronwyn, and the role that she's played has been massive, frankly, in terms of, everything from driving me to and from appointments, but also being really engaged in what treatments I was undertaking. For example, nudging me if it was time for me to take my eye drops, or just, the care that she showed in the post-trabeculectomy period when, I had 2 separate operations, had to recover from both, and I had the little complications afterwards to be managed as well, with vision fluctuating all the way through. I really am blessed to have that family support, because as much as I'm positive and resilient, I think you do feed off the support of those around you. So really, really lucky to have the family support that I do. And talking about people rallying around me, I mean, the 7 sites campaign that's been running as part of this week, I've been absolutely blown away by the people reaching out to me, not just people that I've been in touch with in the last, little while. These are people that I might have worked with over the last 25 years that have reached out and encouraged me to keep going, thanked me for trying to raise awareness and helping them to, understand the disease more. So it's been phenomenal, the whole experience, to be honest, and has taught me a lot about caring for others out there in the community and supporting others in their pathways as well. So, the whole thing has been a bit of a blessing. And I do think that family has a role to play in terms of ensuring the success of the glaucoma treatment journey in particular. I think, it's really, Bronwyn attends, if she can, she'll attend most of the appointments, if not all of them, with me. She'll sit in, listen, ask questions as well. If I can't think of it, she'll know that I'm about to ask it and she'll ask. And that's wonderful, because it feels like she's very engaged and we're sort of approaching it as a family. So, I really, for family members of glaucoma sufferers that might be listening in, don't underestimate the importance of your role in supporting the patient on that journey, because it means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, what a treasure she is. And first of all, shout out to you, Shannon. You've been an incredible fundraiser for the 7 Sites campaign, and all of that money obviously goes to fund educators to have those phone calls, these phone calls that we're talking about now that seriously change people's lives. So well done you for doing that and being such a great promoter of that awareness campaign. And I'm not surprised that your colleagues, who must be in absolute shock, you've got a healthy guy who's working, unaware, has health checks every year through the company, had no idea that he had this condition, and then suddenly, a year later is medically retired and life changes. So I think, your story is such an eye opener, if you like, to those people around you who really now will start valuing their sight and will start getting their eyes tested every couple of years, particularly if they're over, 40, to be able to be checking that their eyes are as healthy and it's not related to glasses. I'd love to throw over to Sapna then, because we've raised an important point on family, and for you to share with those listening in. Do you speak to many family, or are you surprised that family members are not aware that they can access Glaucoma Australia's services? Because they will need to have those chats. They do need to be upskilled. They do need to understand what their partner, family member is going through, so that they can support them in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's right, Amy. Actually, 2 of the calls we had today to our support line were family members calling on behalf of someone with glaucoma. And that's one of the things I did mention to Shannon, that he was very lucky to have that support network, to encourage him to keep going with it as well, and that things will be okay, no matter what the outcome at the end of it. And actually, even sort of just pass a message on to other family members or friends. We often get calls on our support line from family members and friends just wondering how they can get support for their loved one who refuses to get help. And it's very hard to help an adult if they aren't seeking the help. So if loved ones do get stuck there, what can they do? How can they help? And it's quite frustrating and sad for them to see a family member or a friend suffering from glaucoma or any eye condition. There's help out there, but it's just really hard to get them to reach out for it.
And I think that's understandable. And you could probably speak a little bit more to that, because not everyone is like Shannon that says, oh my gosh, if I've got this condition, I need to know absolutely everything about it. I mean, this man is a machine. He's just going to lectures, listening in, researching, asking every question. So in essence, he is the perfect patient, and that is going to be obviously to his advantage, because he will do absolutely everything he can do. But we'll also know, Sapna, that not every patient is like Shannon. Many patients, do the opposite. They go, oh my gosh, this is a lot to deal with. I'll just pretend it's not happening for a little bit longer. And their family members must be very stressed when they call you, because they'll appreciate the urgency. They'll be actually, being more like Shannon's response and feeling frustrated on their behalf.
Yeah, and then the things that we do on our behalf is we can send out the information to them and then ask them to pass it on to the person. So we can send all the information, we can still pass on all our help and all our support groups, all the details of it. And so we do try and help out where we can, but yes, not everyone is Shannon, and it'll be nice to, have more loved ones being able to get to their person to that point where, they know that there is help out there, there is treatment out there. You just have to take that step to go out and get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So those listening in, do be aware. I really want to reassure you that for patients and their families, in fact, any member of the community, you are welcome to call our hotline, and you will be put onto an educator who can support you, answer those questions, listen to you, be able to provide education and support, which will reinforce the information that has been shown by told by your clinician. But sometimes that's it. You forget information. You couldn't process it at the time. Sometimes we need to hear that same message 5 different ways, at 5 different times and so forth. So one thing I'd love to ask you, Shannon, is then when you're at that time, you've been through a period of, shock, if you like, how can people help you? For those listening in and actually want to know, what's it like for the patient? What would you like? What did you need from people around you? How could they best help you at that time while you're trying to process information?
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of challenges in life. I think it's just that unconditional support, to know that, they're behind you and they'll support you on that journey. I was going at such a learning process for me initially that I needed some space to kind of get my head around it, but with that unconditional love and support from the family. So, I think it's just, in my case, it was just that initial space and the knowledge. But in the case of someone that maybe is a little bit scared and not as proactive about building their knowledge, I can see that encouragement would be the big thing, and just giving people the confidence to connect them with the resources. Once you get to the Glaucoma Australia website, and I've shared this with Annie and Sapna, and this is coming from my time in professional services, you are really blown away by the level of resources and information that are at your fingertips there. I mean, it is really impressive, and it's all up to date, and it's constantly being refreshed. And so I think that is something that if you can just get that family member to make that first step to build their understanding through using something like the Glaucoma Australia website, I think that's a great first step.
Yeah. And thank you for appreciating it. A lot of hard work went into that website, and we were absolutely thrilled because it is gold star. It's gold star quality. It's all the information on our website for those listening in, glaucoma.org.au. All of that information is actually, prepared with our clinicians. So we have ophthalmologists, optometrists, pharmacists in committees, actually making sure that all of our information is up to date, best practice, and that any question that the educator might not even feel 100% confident with goes back to our committee. So we feel assured when patients like Shannon, like all of you listening in, actually go there and that information is there. I think it's a really interesting point that you shared too, Shannon, that, you go to the website and you're like a sponge at the beginning, that you need to sort of go through all of that information. And then once you've actually done that, you'll be at a time that you can then ring the educator and ask a little bit more, or how does this apply to my context? Because you've had this journey that you've shared, that you went from, drops, didn't work, laser, and then surgery in a very quick period of time. And we'll have other people listening in who've been on drops for many years, and that sustains them. We'll have others who've had laser, sometimes, once or twice, sometimes multiple times, and then some who've ended up having trabeculectomies. So that's why the journey is different. The information is all there. But with that, it can be overwhelming, right? Did you have periods of feeling overwhelmed by, well, how is this all going to affect me? What is my journey going to be like? And it's almost like I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, you have your ups and downs. There's no question about that, Annie. What I learned as well, though, is to try and trust sources like Glaucoma Australia for your information. It's like, they say don't Google medical stuff in general. Well, that's very true of glaucoma. There's a lot of stuff out there that isn't quite 100% up to date or accurate. It doesn't line up with the latest science and research, whereas I always found that if I just based my understanding, my knowledge on the information that was being presented, say, on the Glaucoma Australia website and a few of the other leading global sites, that was enough for me. And what I did was filter out all that other noise, so I was less anxious about the situation. I think if you took notice of some of the sensationalism out there, particularly on things like, say, the trabeculectomy surgery, I mean, there is literally, enough information out there to make anyone terrified of that operation, to the point where my own eye surgeon, he actually published a document trying to help his patients to understand, how the surgery works and everything they needed to know. And he would give that to his patients and tell them not to Google anything about trabeculectomies because he was so worried that they'd be terrified by all that noise. So I think it is filtering out the stuff you shouldn't really take notice of, and getting really precise on, okay, this is where I'm going to get my information, and that's how I'm going to form my mindset around this.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's great to hear. And for those listening in, I know we're on Facebook Live, but if you haven't been to the Glaucoma Australia website for a while, you will notice that we've done that deliberately. We've done a pathway. So it's, if you have glaucoma, we'll then start with drops and then laser and then a bit on surgery. And we actually exactly want to do that. We want to make people less anxious. We want you to feel just confident and knowing about what your situation is. So if you're on drops, we want you to know everything about drops, and there's videos to back things up. There's access to our fantastic educator Sapna. And then if it's laser or surgery, and that's right, we don't want you to go there if it's unnecessary. And also we don't, not saying don't go anywhere else than the Glaucoma Australia website, but we feel that is that is best practice. You know, we've got enough information to meet your needs. I'd love to ask you now then, what is your outlook for the future? And do you have, you know, any advice for other glaucoma sufferers and their loved ones?
Yeah, that's it's a really good one, Annie, again. So, you know, I'm, as I said, very positive person. So my outlook is definitely positive. You know, I am at peace with whatever comes my way with the disease, though. I am aware that it is a journey. You know, I'm very focused now on my health and my family. And, you know, I am very confident that I will lead a very fulfilled, enjoyable life, although it will be different. You know, that's kind of where I've gotten to on it. And I feel good about that. I think, you know, if I was giving tips or advice on what, you know, where I've gotten to and sharing the best of that with people, I think if you're a glaucoma sufferer, you know, a glaucoma patient on this journey, I would say the number one thing I've learned so far is to not let glaucoma define your life. You know, don't be limited by glaucoma. Don't let it stop you from doing anything you want to do. And what I mean by that is there's lots of sort of guidance and discussion and debate around, you know, does caffeine increase pressure? Does yoga, you know, does that cause an issue? Realistically, anything that's good for your overall health is going to be good for your glaucoma. And that's, you know, I'm not a doctor, but that's just my position on it. And so what I'm doing now as part of my pathway is I'm doing things that are good for my health span, my overall health span and longevity. And I know that those things are good for my glaucoma as well. So that's kind of my tip for the glaucoma patients. Don't let it define you. Do what you want to do and be healthy. In terms of those who may not have glaucoma, or they may be family members, or they may not even wear glasses, you know, I would urge everyone on the call that's listening in to think about people around you, and please don't let them assume that their eyes are healthy if they haven't been for an eye examination, particularly if they're over 40. You know, nag them to go and get their eyes checked. You know, do them that favor as you would any family issue or health thing that might be floating around. You know, really support them to make that step, because honestly, the more people that can get their eyes checked that are unaware of this disease, the better, particularly if they're in that danger zone over a certain age, or if they've got a family history. I really do encourage that. And I think the campaign, Annie, that's been running has been wonderful to bring that awareness to some of the discussions that I'm seeing. You know, people that have reached out to me and said, Shannon, I wasn't intending to get my eyes checked, but since I read your post, I actually ran out and did that. You know, in most cases, that hasn't led to any issues, but what that's telling me is we're generating a conversation amongst people around glaucoma, and that's really what we need to do.
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to do. You know, it's eye health awareness, and what we're talking is health of the eyes, things that you can't see to the naked eye. That the fact that you, in your situation, you know, you've lost such significant vision without being aware, and that's exactly what people will find, that if you wait till you notice that vision loss, you will have lost a very large amount of your vision, which is then irreversible. And so that's what it is. It actually is a great campaign, because it's telling Australians to go, you know what, you should start thinking about getting your eyes tested every couple of years from the age, generally we say 50 or 40 if you've had family history. If you're any one of Shannon's friends, he got diagnosed earlier, get it from 40. He wants to make sure you do. And you know, it's not hard, it's non-invasive, it's just at the optometrist, it's on Medicare. Go and get your eyes tested, and you'll just have that confidence. And do you have to do it every year, couple of years? Yes, because you want to find out at the very earliest opportunity. Your heart must be just saying it to everybody, find out early, don't let this happen to you. Do you have a sense of urgency now?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely. It's kind of it's you know, the conversations are amazing that you're having with people around vision health and eye health. You know, so many people actually feel a little bit normal, because so many people have got the same misunderstanding that I had. But at the same time, that's terrifying. So you know, I guess my dream is that, you know, going to see your optometrist is like going to see the dentist, or getting, you know, other health things checked out on a regular basis. That's my dream for everyone, to have that awareness and you know, the good thing is optometrists are everywhere. I mean, the other day walking towards my grocery store, I counted 5 in a row. You know, that was up at Bondi Junction. And, you know, and as you say, it's a 10-minute requirement. You know, that's all it took in my case for me to be diagnosed. And you often don't even need an appointment. They will be happy to see you. So really it's on us as a community to support each other in our awareness, but also to take that step and go and get your eyes checked.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant message, and one that we just have to constantly just keep repeating. If you haven't done it, go and get it tested. Don't be scared about it. That's right. Even if you haven't made an appointment, just drop on in. You might be lucky, or you might not have to wait very long. It is the way that we can be confident. Until Australia is a bit like, I know that I go to the dentist regularly. Women get their breast checked. You know, you might get the bowel test done, prostate checks. They're things that actually, you know, we need to just come out in the open and go, of course we don't want to wait till it's too late. Of course we don't want to keep that private and not worry about it or not tell anyone. We actually need to do the opposite and then just go, yes, it's part of a normal health check that we should be doing. So all of you who I know listening in, many of you will be extremely glaucoma aware, but tell your family, tell your friends, tell everybody through the 7 Sights campaign. We've got a fantastic campaign at the moment, which is just so easy to share. And it is a wonderful way of actually just, you know, encouraging your loved ones to know a little bit about glaucoma, know how it affects you. Just do that for peace of mind. Shannon, you shared at the beginning that you actually went to the optometrist because you were the only one in your family who didn't wear glasses. So I thought, gee, I better check why. And it wasn't even to do with that. You're still not wearing glasses.
I still don't need prescription glasses. They wouldn't help me. You know, so that's incredible, right? I mean, that's where that misunderstanding can be so, you know, black and white. I was just going to say, Annie, the other thing that's probably worth mentioning for those on the call, you know, one of the things that I was always really impressed by is also the research that Glaucoma Australia is supporting. This is my son here joining us. And so, yeah, I always felt really, really positive. Coming back to that point about outlook, I always felt really positive about my outlook because I could see that Glaucoma Australia were also on a regular basis supporting really cutting edge research into treatments and different pathways for people in my situation. And I think that's a very important role for everyone to be aware of in terms of Glaucoma Australia's role. It's the conversations and the volunteers on the calls, it's the awareness, but it's also that really important research that helps with your outlook, really helps with your outlook. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, no, and thank you for noting that. And that's right. As a charity, we give away $200,000 a year on research grants to people who are these scientists, these optometrists, ophthalmologists, scientists who are doing pioneering work into glaucoma. And all of that is to actually make sure that we detect glaucoma earlier, that we treat it better, that we've got, you know, science and technology developing at a rate to make people's lives better. We've got a beautiful comment on the chat from Deborah who said, well said, Shannon, glaucoma should not define you as it's part it's part of you. Yeah. So don't let glaucoma define you. It's just something that you have, right? I love the way you just go, I'm still going to live my life, going to live the best life I can have. I'm just going to live it differently, I think you said, you know. Yeah. I'd love you to speak to that, Sapna. You must get a lot of calls every day of people who with a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, and just, you know, they feel that glaucoma then becomes everything. You know, how do you approach that, and what's your message to people who have got a lot of anxiety and are letting it define them probably a bit too much?
The main message there would be that just be thankful that it has been detected, and let's just focus forward from here. So what we can't do anything about what's been lost. End of the day, you do have 2 eyes as well. I know it's not reassuring for everyone, but your eyes work together. So let's just focus on what's left. Let's focus on the good health that there is. and just follow your treatments, go to your appointments, ask questions, find out more, change your lifestyle, healthier lifestyle as well. And it's all about focusing on what you have and not what you've lost. And also, just like Shannon said, it doesn't define you. You just keep living your life, but just be glaucoma aware. Like, how will this affect, my glaucoma? But everything in moderation is key.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got some, once again, fantastic resources even on the Glaucoma Australia website. You get less anxiety when you've got more knowledge, right? Because you actually understand it and can process it. And then when you get fantastic support from an educator, you can ask those questions, and just, the more and more knowledge that you have, you'll feel more empowered, and you'll have generally less anxiety and having support. We've got fantastic support groups through Glaucoma Australia. We've got a general support group. We've also got a congenital glaucoma support group. We've got thousands of people who access them. So you've actually got a whole community of people who do understand what you're going through, so that you can then live your best life. And that's what we are all about doing. So I want to thank you so much for all of your sharing. Our time has gone so quickly. I know there are so many people listening in, and we would love to be chatting all evening. I hope you found that incredibly valuable. I know I have, listening to Shannon's story and how open he has been about sharing his experience. Thank you so much, Shannon, for being able to do that. And because I know it's just so valuable to other people who go, oh, wow, you're actually really inspiring. If you can go through the journey you've got and have such a positive outlook, then it really does give a lot of encouragement to others who are struggling. And we know that it is very challenging, and it's a lot to get your mind around, and it's a lot to now process. And no one wants to suddenly, be told that they have to not work now, or give away their license, or to be putting drops in and going to treatment. And it's but when you do it and you have trust in your professionals, you can have an absolutely a fantastic life, live a different life, as you said, Shannon. So I want to thank you, and I want to also thank Sapna publicly. Sapna, you are absolutely a star. You support people day in, day out, year after year, and your service to those, who just ring in is always absolutely first class. And so thank you on behalf of Glaucoma Australia. And I know Shannon just has such high regard for you, but not only Shannon, I know all of those people who you answer their chats on Facebook, you answer the phone, you talk through all of their questions, help them process things. And and thank you so much for that. For those of you listening in, if you haven't yet registered for the 7 Sites in 7 Days challenge, do so now. Even if it's been a bit wet, you sort of feel like you're a little bit late, you're not too late. You've got to the end of the month to get engaged, get those photos uploaded on our website. And today is the perfect day to join, because it's dollar match day. So this means that whatever someone donates to you will be doubled by OPSM and Lodman and Pank. So thank you to those industry partners. That is really great news. I know Shannon had a $1,000 donation come in today, so that's $2,000 for Glaucoma Australia. That's how valuable it is. It then supports so many more services that we can give. It keeps our website at the best standard in the world. It helps us have gold star educators like Sapna. It helps us invest in research that helps people long term, and so much more. So thanks so much. We're not asking for a lot. Ask your friends to support you in that way, and also just do the challenge. Sign up your group at work, tell some friends. Actually, just by doing the fundraiser will actually get your family and friends to the website, learning about glaucoma, thinking like Shannon's friends, I should go and get my eyes tested. Just peace of mind goes a long way. I think that's probably one of the best outcomes of this campaign. And I thank everyone who is already doing this campaign. We're already up to about $55,000, which is just insane. We are obviously aiming for 300,000 because we are wanting to support 300,000 people with glaucoma. So we've picked that number. Nothing is impossible. So just keep chipping away. Tell your back neighbour. Tell everybody you know, and together we make a difference. That's what it's all about. So I will leave you there. Thank you so much for your time today, Shannon and Sapna.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And thank you all of those who've listened in. Have a great evening.